Did I say something funny, Lord Kavat? Emperor Vaan asked with surprise. Although it was rude to laugh at him after he was speaking seriously, he didn't find it offensive. Instead, he only felt relief. After all, if Lord Kavat wasn't concerned about it, then it probably wasn't something to be worried about. In other words, he most likely raised a false alarm. As a matter of fact, you did, Emperor Vaan, Kavat continued to chuckle before saying, that power you fear is not dangerous. It's not a secret within my Red Dragon clan either. If you want, I can explain it to you. Please, Emperor Vaan pleaded. Shortly after, Kavat recounted the common knowledge of chaos and its eternal growth with every passing chaos cycle. Indeed, a higher being with power far beyond the great devils existed. However, that alone shouldn't be regarded as a great threat. Just because many things in chaos could kill them didn't mean they would. Even if they did, they could do nothing about it since they were too insignificant, so why fret over it? So the great devils are only considered among the bottommost ranks of chaos? The world is truly vast. Emperor Varen's lips twitched. That is just how it is. Don't let the truth of reality burden you, Emperor Vaan. Compared to the long history of chaos, your lineage of the human race is very young. So, there's no need to look down on yourself, Kavat said. Alright, Emperor Vaan nodded before changing the topic. It's been a few days since Lord Vaan left. When will he return? I'm not sure what his plans are for this country. The Supreme Leader currently has businesses on the moon, Emperor Vaan, Kavat replied. He has left me in charge of supervising the cooperation between the Great Rathalos Empire and the Holy Night Empire or the Seven Witch Kingdoms and making sure they proceed smoothly. You may have submitted to our Supreme Leader, but you haven't lost your sovereignty. The Great Rathalos Empire is still yours to govern as you see fit, Kavat stated. Emperor Vaan was immediately surprised. He originally thought Vaan would make major changes after taking control of the Great Rathalos Empire. However, he was wrong. Nothing changed except that his country could get along with the Holy Night Empire and the Seven Witch Kingdoms of the North. Distrust, conflicting ideologies, and discriminatory views have always been the root of the problem preventing the Great Rathalos Empire from getting along with other countries. But now that it had been forced under a single entity, it was as if all its restrictions had been uplifted. Even if the Great Rathalos Empire didn't agree with the religious beliefs of the Holy Night Empire or the discriminatory views of the Seven Witch Kingdoms, it would no longer prevent them from working together for mutual benefit. They no longer had a reason to fear the other party backstabbing them or plotting traps to sabotage their country's interests because they were now on the same side. There was someone to ensure their fairness. Emperor Vaan still found it hard to believe his Great Rathalos Empire could enjoy such a blessing despite submitting to desperate circumstances. It seemed the Overlord prophecy was not unfounded. The Overlord could unite the continent with absolute strength, but it wouldn't be absolutely united without charisma. Because Lord Vaan had the heart of the people with him, the countries under his rule would most definitely stand strong together and not fall apart so easily. So long as their faith in him remained strong, their unity would not crumble. The Black Mountain was the country's national treasure. But now, it has become the symbol of the people's belief in the battle god. No one would forget the Black Pillar that halted the vampires' invasion. Nevertheless, Emperor Vaan was so caught up in his thoughts that he almost missed an important detail in Kavat's words. After pausing for a moment, Emperor Vaan apologized. I'm sorry, Lord Kavat. Did you say Lord Vaan has business on the moon? That's right, Kavat nodded and said, we are building a base on the moon to utilize the pure mana source the Supreme Leader discovered there. In the near future, everyone will have a chance to stand on the moon and enjoy its benefits. Emperor Varen's jaw dropped. He already knew the Red Dragon clan's new dragon god was someone amazing and overflowing with talent. However, even after he gave the person high expectations, the person would still find ways to exceed them. What is this pure mana source, Lord Kavat? What's so special or different about it? Emperor Vaan quickly asked with interest after noticing Kavat's particular emphasis on it. The pure mana source is. Kavat patiently explained the benefits of pure mana and how it differed from regular mana. Pure mana didn't just allow men to cultivate magic, even witches and dragons would benefit from cultivating with it, ranging from increased progress to overcoming bottlenecks. It was beneficial to all life and had far-reaching applications. After Emperor Vaan finished learning about pure mana, he was immediately shocked and confused. I don't understand, Lord Kavat. Why is such an amazing discovery being made public? It will attract countless greed and troubles, Emperor Vaan mentioned. Indeed, that would be the case, Kavat acknowledged before calmly replying, but at the Supreme Leader's current level of strength, would he fear the greed and troubles it would attract? In fact, the Supreme Leader is looking forward to the greed and troubles it will bring. This move will undoubtedly speed up the process of uniting the continent, Kavat added. Will it, though? I don't want to sound pessimistic, but too big of a wave will capsize the ship. Emperor Vaan shared his opinion on the. I understand your concern, Emperor Vaan. However, our Supreme Leader's wisdom isn't something you can measure with your understanding, Kavat coolly stated before saying, our Supreme Leader doesn't care how many troublemakers there are, he only cares who they are. This bold move will undoubtedly draw them out of hiding and let us learn about our enemies. You have already personally experienced how terrible it is once a hidden ticking time bomb finally erupts, Kavat stated. Emperor Varen's expression turned somber as he nodded. He finally realized how brilliant the move was. He, too, did not wish for a second incident like the Sacred Tirtha's large-scale sacrifice to occur again, not to his Great Rathalos Empire, not to any other human country. Such a tragedy shouldn't be allowed to repeat itself. Due to his growing interest, Emperor Vaan continued to ask Kavat questions about the moon base and pure mana. I'm starting to wonder how Lord Vaan's mind works. It's already unbelievable that he came up with all these ideas, but, to realize them as well. How many people could do this? He had been the leader of a generation for many years. Standing above the masses and ruling over them was what he had always done. However, learning about Vaan's ongoing projects made Emperor Vaan thoroughly impressed. Emperor Vaan never thought there would be a day where he would willingly lower himself and serve another person above him. However, Vaan was fully qualified and deserving of all his respect and loyalty. Only under Vaan's leadership would the human race of Pangaea be ushered into a golden age of development. Traversing among the stars was only a dream, but there was actually someone who could make it happen. Emperor Vaan couldn't help but look forward to the future miracles Vaan would show him as he followed his leadership. Shall we continue to discuss business, Emperor Vaan? My apologies, Empress Astoria. Let us do that. It wasn't my intention to be sidetracked, Emperor. Shortly after, Emperor Vaan, Astoria, and Henrietta began to negotiate. Emperor Vaan wished to buy knowledgeable magic teachers from both the Holy Night Empire and the Black Rose Empire to develop the Great Rathalos Empire's magic education. However, Astoria and Henrietta outright refused him even if he offered them a high price. Their people weren't goods to be sold off like slaves. At most, Emperor Vaan could hire their services, which he reluctantly agreed to after taking a step back. Nevertheless, Emperor Vaan soon discovered he would need to invest a tremendous amount of mana stones to develop his country's magic faculty to an acceptable standard. Furthermore, there was bound to be a severe shortage of healing potions due to the complete annihilation of the sacred Turtha. The loss of so many shamans and witch doctors struck his country hard. After doing some rough calculations, Emperor Vaan realized his country's current production of mana stone wasn't enough to support everything unless he made some sacrifices to the martial faculty. Emperor Vaan found himself conflicted. If you are short of mana stones, how about selling us the right to enter your country and use a section of your sea region, Emperor Vaan? We will send people to procure the mana stones ourselves and pay taxes if necessary. Since the Great Rathalos Empire's eastern sea was so rich in mana stone deposits, she was naturally interested in securing a few for the Holy Night Empire. It would certainly boost their development. Alas, Emperor Vaan couldn't help but smile wryly at her suggestion. He shortly replied, "That's quite the difficult spot you've put me in, Empress Astoria." "Oh? Could it be that you don't wish to sell the rights to us, Emperor Vaan?" "That is not the case, Empress Astoria," Emperor Vaan sighed before saying, "If your people are willing to pay the taxes, I would naturally be more than happy to permit it, no matter how many people you send to mine the mana stone. However, as I've said previously, the Eastern Sea's deep sea region is very treacherous. Even transcendent-level body refiners could perish easily in its waters. As such, you will only be sending your people to their deaths and suffering losses if I were to allow it. After all, your people don't even train in body refinement. It'll be very difficult for them to survive the deep sea region's dangers with aura and magic alone," Emperor Vaan added. "Why don't you tell us more about the dangers of the deep sea, Emperor Vaan?" Henrietta asked. "You should already know about water pressure, so I won't bother explaining its danger in the deep sea," Emperor Vaan stated before saying, "The biggest dangers of the deep sea come from the sea monsters that dwell in that dark world. Not only are they strong and aggressive, they are also numerous and massive. The weakest sea monsters are generally found around the transcendent rank, and the strongest ones we have encountered to date are believed to be demigods. There may even be stronger sea monsters out there in the deep sea," Emperor Vaan added. "Transcendents are the weakest, and the strongest are demigods? Furthermore, there may be even stronger sea monsters?" Astoria repeated with astonishment. The strength of sea life far exceeded her expectations. It made her wonder how they grew to be so strong. "That's right," Emperor Vaan nodded and said, "I know what you are wondering, but you will not believe me if I told you, these sea monsters aren't just strong, they were born at least that strong." "Is there a difference between the sea monsters you mentioned and the sea serpent clan?" Henrietta suddenly asked with a frown. "Frown? Is there a difference?" "Of course, there's a difference, Queen Henrietta. There's a big difference." Emperor Vaan felt a little speechless by the question, but he still patiently explained, "The sea serpent clan is a sentient race of sea beasts from the inner sea. On the other hand, the sea monsters are non-sentient beings from the outer sea. Furthermore, sea beasts aren't born as strong as the sea monsters, nor are they comparable in size. We can at least tame or reason with sea beasts if we expend the effort. Sea monsters only rely on their most primal instincts to survive. If you encounter one, you can only kill it or flee," Emperor Vaan sighed. After Astoria and Henrietta heard that much, they were even more astonished. The Boundless Sea's inner sea was the region of non-toxic seawater surrounding the continent. Everything else beyond that was considered the outer sea, a boundless sea region of toxic water capable of killing all life. As such, the outer sea was also known as the Dead Sea. It was their first time hearing there could be life in such a godforsaken place. Previous chapter. Come Novel Bin store with special offers. You about the strength of the sea from Emperor Vaan, they became more astounded over time. Unexpectedly, the strength of the sea was actually so frightening. "It's good they can't come onto land," Astoria commented with slight relief. Just the water pressure of the deep sea alone made most of Pangaea's ocean depths unreachable. Now, she learned even more terrifying creatures lurking in it. Alas, Emperor Vaan smiled helplessly before saying, "I wouldn't be so sure about it, Empress Astoria." "Could it be that sea monsters can survive on land?" Astoria asked with astonishment. "I don't know about that. The outer sea has always been uncharted territory, Empress Astoria." Emperor Vaan calmly shook his head before replying, "However, even though we are incapable of exploring it, we can still see part of it from a distance. Among the shadows of terrifying sea monsters that we have seen in the outer sea, one of them flies in the sky. Moreover, its mass is absolutely monstrous, spanning an estimated length of 10 kilometers. Its strength is most definitely at the demigod rank or even beyond. Presently, we haven't confirmed its exact species. However, we have labeled it as the Sky Whale Overlord due to his distinct whale-like cry, Emperor Vaan mentioned. Even if the toxic seawater didn't stop them from venturing into the outer sea, the Sky Whale Overlord's existence alone was enough reason to prevent anyone from ever trying to intrude into its territory. 10 kilometers in length. Henrietta and Astoria uttered with stunned looks. Besides the legend of the continent being the body of golden dragon Pangea, they had never heard of or seen any other life form of such sheer enormity. Of course, the Sky Whale Overlord was nothing compared to golden dragon Pangea. However, it was still an absolute behemoth of a being, even if its estimated size wasn't accurate. Demigod rank life forms generally don't exceed 1,000 meters in size, Empyrean Scarlet Sea said to Henrietta. However, this Sky Whale Overlord is estimated to be 10 kilometers long. Even if the estimation is off, this is not the size of a demigod rank life form. That Sky Whale Overlord is most definitely at the divine rank. Moreover, it is higher up in the divine rank at the very least, Empyrean Scarlet Sea added seriously. It's actually that strong, Master? Henrietta was shocked. However, Empyrean Scarlet Sea quickly corrected her. No, it's not that strong, it's at least that strong. Even if that Sky Whale Overlord has no spiritual wisdom and doesn't know how to cultivate, just being of that size alone makes it at least a late-stage divine being. This is because the composition must be at this level at the very least to support it. If it is sentient, then its strength is likely even beyond that. However, apart from some special lineages and mythical beast races, most life forms that could grow to such sizes are generally non-sentient beings incapable of developing spiritual wisdom, Empyrean Scarlet Sea explained. I see. Henrietta quickly understood but still felt surprised nonetheless. Nevertheless, she suddenly thought of something after learning the relationship between size and strength. Hold on. If the Sky Whale Overlord is that big, then how big are the transcendent rank sea monsters usually? Henrietta asked with a startled look. Transcendent rank sea monsters are generally 30 meters to 100 meters big. Some are even as big as 200 meters long. As for anything bigger, it has never been hunted before, so it's hard to say, Emperor Vaan stated. I see. Henrietta nodded with understanding. Fortunately, transcendent rank sea monsters were within the expected range and weren't greatly underestimated like the Sky Whale Overlord. However, that was also to be expected. After all, Emperor Vaan had never hunted demigod rank sea monsters or above. Thus, it was impossible to understand just how strong the Sky Whale Overlord was. Furthermore, its shadows were only seen from afar, making it more difficult to gauge its strength, let alone with limited knowledge. For your information, transcendent rank sea monster meat is an absolute delicacy. Not only does it taste great, but it also improves our physique. Its blood and organs are also great for brewing potent potions, and its bones are priceless materials for crafting rank 5 equipment, weapons, and various tools, Emperor Vaan mentioned. You're trying quite hard to strike a sale, Emperor Vaan, Henrietta said with amusement. It doesn't hurt to try, Emperor Vaan smiled wryly. Well, I didn't say you failed, Henrietta smiled back before admitting, I am indeed in buying transcendent rank C, it doesn't hurt to try, Emperor Vaan smiled wryly. Well, I didn't say you failed, Henrietta smiled back before monster carcasses from you, Emperor Vaan. It is hard not to be after how much you have told us about sea monsters. However, simply buying transcendent rank sea monster meat and materials from you would be quite costly in the long term. Thus, I propose a joint venture in hunting these sea monsters and splitting the profits. Although you won't be able to monopolize the sales and price if we do this, I believe the sharp increase in hunting will benefit your country either way. What do you think, Emperor Vaan? Henrietta proposed. I can't say I'm not interested. However, we have to discuss this in detail, Emperor Vaan replied. It was hard to determine how much the Black Rose Empire and Holy Knight Empire could help his great Rathalos Empire in hunting the sea monsters. If they could only provide support in the hunting, he naturally needed to negotiate a bigger share on his end. Otherwise, he would be suffering a loss, considering his warriors would be taking on greater risks. On the other hand, if they could pull their weight in the hunt, then he wouldn't mind a more equal split of the profits. Naturally, Henrietta nodded. While Henrietta and Emperor Vaan were discussing business, Astoria had other thoughts on her mind. After contemplating for a while, she mentioned, Emperor Vaan, you mentioned these sea monsters come from the outer sea, which is also known as the Dead Sea. I don't understand how these creatures could survive in such a toxic environment. Furthermore, how can its meat be safe for consumption? There must be some side effects to it, no? Astoria added. My great Rathalos Empire has hunted and eaten these sea monsters for centuries. I can assure you that they are quite safe to eat, Empress Astoria. Moreover, they provide plenty of health benefits as well, Emperor Vaan replied before adding, but of course, we do make adequate preparations to ensure that stays the case. I, myself, have dissected countless sea monsters during my active hunting days, so I'm quite knowledgeable about sea monsters. You see, these sea monsters, regardless of their species, all have a special organ for storing all the toxins in their bodies. As long as this toxin-storing organ is carefully removed without spillage, the sea monster's inner layer of meat will be safe to consume as is. The outer meat, on the other hand, requires a strict cleansing and cooking process before it reaches our safe standards for consumption. If you are not reassured, I can show our usual procedure for prepping the sea monsters before we discuss this business further, Emperor Vaan suggested. Alright, let's do that, but later, Henrietta nodded before seriously mentioning, besides trading and cooperation, there's something else we should also discuss, Emperor Vaan. Oh. Emperor Vaan was mildly surprised for a moment. But after seeing Henrietta's solemn expression, his mood also shifted. You want to discuss potential joint strategies to guard our countries against the movements of other countries, Queen Henrietta? So you are aware of the issue, Emperor Vaan. That's right, Henrietta nodded before saying, when Great Devil Abaddon completed his ritual and plunged your imperial capital into chaos with his vampiric forces, only our Black Rose Empire and Holy Knight Empire mobilized our armies to aid your country. On the other hand, the Divine League and Nine Kingdoms Alliance, the closest countries to your Great Rathalos Empire, did nothing but strengthen their borders and cut off trade routes, according to the Red Dragon Clan scout reports in the past 3 days. By now, the rest of the world has learned of Great Devil Abaddon's descent and that we were the only countries to come to your aid. They will subconsciously lump us together even if they don't know about your recently sworn allegiance to Lord Vaan. I don't think I need to stress what this entails, right? Henrietta asked. Right, Emperor Vaan calmly nodded and said, the combined territory and military might of 2 empires and 7 witch kingdoms would be quite alarming to the other countries. It isn't far-fetched to say that our unified alliance occupies the entire northern continent. I'm afraid the Divine League or the Nine Kingdoms Alliance wouldn't like this. Thus, there's a high possibility of them either seeking to expand their own alliances to match ours or secretly act to sabotage our relationship and break up our alliance, Emperor Vaan speculated. I'm glad you know the situation well, Emperor Vaan, Henrietta seemingly praised him before continuing, it won't be easy for the Divine League and the Nine Kingdoms Alliance to expand their influence just because they want to. On the other hand, plotting against your Great Rathalos Empire would be simpler. So, for everyone's benefit, let us hope that you don't stumble and fall for their trickery, then start blaming us for other people's schemes, Henrietta coolly stated. I'm of the same thought as Henrietta, Astoria chimed. Emperor Vaan smiled ruefully before replying, you both seem quite sure I will fall for their schemes and start blaming you too, Queen Henrietta and Empress Astoria. What can I say? Your country practically has 0 defenses against magic. If the Divine League or the Nine Kingdoms Alliance are adept in magic, it would be quite easy to mislead your people and create tension between our countries. Henrietta nonchalantly shrugged. Emperor Vaan smiled even more ruefully before saying, isn't that why I am seeking magic scholars and teachers from your countries to develop our magic faculty in a bid to catch up? I didn't deny your efforts towards that working direction, Emperor Vaan, Henrietta shook her head and said, I'm simply saying that it will take time to realize that. Were you planning to leave your country in such a vulnerable state until your defense against magic espionage and sabotage caught up to standard? You mean? My Black Rose army is available for hire if you also need battle witches to guard your borders and cities, Emperor Vaan, Henrietta casually mentioned. In that instant, Emperor Vaan immediately understood Henrietta's intention and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The suggestion itself wasn't a bad idea. After all, national security was quite important in ensuring the country's stability from exterior threats. However, Emperor Vaan already had too many things on his plate. He wasn't sure where he would find the funds to support them all. Mana stones aren't the only thing we are interested in, Emperor Vaan. We are not that greedy for your country's mana stones. We are also interested in your country's body-refining methods and martial arts knowledge, Astoria mentioned. If we can learn your country's body-refining methods and martial arts knowledge, both my Holy Knight Empire and Henrietta's Black Rose Empire will benefit from it. Thus, if you are willing to trade, we can exchange mana stones for them. This should provide you with additional funds to invest in other areas you found short. What do you think of this, Emperor Vaan? Astoria asked shortly after. Emperor Vaan wore a thoughtful look. Although it didn't seem like a good idea to sell his country's body-refining methods and martial arts knowledge to other countries, that was in the past. Now that they were on the same side, it was good to exchange what they had in excess and take what they needed. It was a give-and-take relationship, there was no loss and only gains. More importantly, it was true that his country needed additional security in magical forces. His country would be at the mercy of the Divine League and the Nine Kingdoms Alliance if they had secretly developed advanced magic units. Furthermore, the Divine League and Nine Kingdoms Alliance weren't the only concerns. With the shift in power dynamics, the Freedom Federation and other forces might also act to restore the balance. Among the 9 kingdoms of the Nine Kingdoms Alliance, the Eastern Wind Kingdom occupied the northeasternmost region, sharing its borders with the Great Rathalos Empire's southeastern region and the Eastern Sea. However, despite possessing direct access to the Eastern Sea, like the Great Rathalos Empire, it was far inferior in terms of power. In fact, it was the weakest of the 9 kingdoms within the alliance. Its strongest expert was only a low-level rank for warrior. Nevertheless, this shouldn't be surprising, given it was a direct neighbor of the Holy Land of Body Refining. Losing its potential talents to the Great Rathalos Empire all year round was to be expected. That said, it didn't necessarily imply the Eastern Wind Kingdom permanently lost its talents to the Great Rathalos Empire. Some of them would return to their home after making progress in their training and assume high positions in the kingdom. Even so, it was undeniable that most talents were outside the kingdom most of the time. Thus, the kingdom couldn't utilize its true strength to gain more speaking rights and influence within the alliance. It could only be looked down on and ostracized by the other kingdoms in the alliance. After all, the Black Seal Kingdom in the eastern part of the alliance and the Goldwater Kingdom in the southeastern part were also coastal kingdoms. But unlike the Eastern Wind Kingdom, they had high-level rank for warriors. Even the rest of the non-coastal kingdoms in the alliance had at least one mid-level rank for warrior. As such, the Eastern Wind Kingdom was quite lacking in that aspect. In the distant past, its capital city, Eastwind City, was a flourishing and beautiful city of white stone and silver metal, and the refreshing sea breeze of the Eastern Sea used to pump energy into it. Although Eastwind City was still a beautiful coastal city, much of its past glamour was gone, and only its shell was retained. Due to poor maintenance, cracks filled its building walls, and pungent fish stench pervaded its chaotic and dirty streets. Despite being the capital city of the Eastern Wind Kingdom, even its order was difficult to maintain due to the frequent crimes and chaos committed by the powerful crime syndicates naturally attracted to it due to its weak stability and profitable market. In front of these powerful crime syndicates, royal authority was a joke that only existed in name. The Winston royal family was helpless against them due to their limited power. NOVLB/JNN. Every morning, officials would gather inside the Eastwind Palace's Great Hall for their regular meeting and report. At that moment, King Herman Winston sat on his throne with a listless expression. He listened to the ongoing discussion without any particular focus or attention. The topics and reports have mostly been the same for the past 3 days. The Alliance is pressuring us to find out the current situation within the Great Rathalos Empire again, the Minister of Foreign Affairs mentioned gloomily. Again? Why are they only pressuring us? The Ironblood Kingdom and Great Tristar Kingdom also share their borders with the Great Rathalos Empire. The Alliance should also pressure them. Why only us? The Minister of Defense barked with frustration. We've already been over this more than once, Minister Dudley. No one can get news from the Great Rathalos Empire since we've all sealed off all routes to and from there. However, we still have access via the sea, that's why the Alliance is pinning its hopes on our kingdom to acquire the news, the Minister of Trade stated. Acquire news from the Great Rathalos Empire via the sea? Minister Dudley snickered with derision, replying, easier said than done. Who doesn't know the ports and ships are all controlled by crime gangs? Those damn parasites are constantly leeching off our kingdom's wealth, the Minister of Internal Affairs cursed grudgingly, saying, if not for them, would our kingdom become so weak that our allies have the chance to bully us? These crime gangs have been ongoing problems for a long while. The Alliance is purposely making things difficult for us, the Minister of Internal Affairs added. Humph. Minister Dudley coldly snorted and said, of course, they are purposely making things for us, Where else would you find such powerful warriors? Minister Hector. Those damn criminals are most likely agents planted by the other kingdoms in the Alliance. Where else would you find such powerful warriors? Warriors? It was a mistake for our kingdom to become part of the Nine Kingdoms Alliance. We haven't gained any real benefits from this alliance, but we have been exploited and suppressed plenty. If our kingdom is bound to be swallowed by other countries, we are better off getting swallowed by the Great Rathalos Empire than this group of two-faced bastards. Minister Dudley cursed. Impudent. How dare you spout such treasonous words in His Majesty's presence, Minister Dudley? Minister Hector angrily rebuked, saying, more importantly, we don't even know the situation inside the Great Rathalos Empire. For all we know, there might not even be a Great Rathalos Empire in the coming days. His Majesty is wise for making our kingdom a part of the Nine Kingdoms Alliance. Our situation might be bad, but at least we aren't facing the terror of a great devil right now. Minister Hector stated. Humph. Minister Dudley snorted contemptuously before coldly asking, after the Great Rathalos Empire falls, where do you think Great Devil Abaddon's vampiric forces will rear their ugly heads, Minister Hector? If we had actively sent support to the Great Rathalos Empire at the first possible moment, we wouldn't be blind to the situation as we are now. Minister Dudley barked. Are you even hearing yourself, Minister Dudley? Send support to the Great Rathalos Empire? Against Great Devil Abaddon? Are you joking? The Minister of Foreign Affairs made snide remarks. Our kingdom is the weakest within the alliance. Forget whether it is possible to stop a great devil's descent, we would only be sending our troops to die. Even worse, their deaths might even strengthen Great Devil Abaddon and his minions. In that case, the Great Rathalos Empire won't even feel grateful for our support. They might even condemn us, the Minister of Foreign Affairs stated cynically. It's already far too late for that anyway. What's the point of mentioning that now? King Herman sighed as he spoke for the first time. Previous chapter. Since that is the case, let us discuss something we can change, Your Majesty. The Nine Kingdoms Alliance is no different from a cage. Our kingdom's development has been crippled by people we consider allies. This cannot go on any further, Your Majesty, Minister Dudley spoke. So what do you propose, Minister Dudley? King Herman inquired. Remove the blockade and send people to the Great Rathalos Empire to scout for information, Your Majesty. No matter what, we must understand its current situation, Minister Dudley stated. A great devil's descent threatens more than just a single country, the whole world is at stake. We can't cower behind the safety of our walls forever. We must send support to the Great Rathalos Empire and restore our image. It is better late than never. Only by doing this will we have a chance to break away from the Nine Kingdoms Alliance, Your Majesty, Minister Dudley said. While I don't agree with sending our troops to the Great Rathalos Empire, I do agree with Minister Dudley on the part where we have to break away from the Nine Kingdoms Alliance, Your Majesty, the Minister of External Affairs voiced. The longer we stay with the Nine Kingdoms Alliance, the longer they drain our kingdom's vitality. Instead of waiting for our deaths, I would much rather fight with honor alongside the Great Rathalos Empire. The way that we are now cannot be considered living. It's about time we take a stand for ourselves, Your Majesty, the Minister of External Affairs stated. King Herman sighed before saying, while the words sound pretty, realizing them is much more difficult. The moment we lift the blockade and send troops to support the Great Rathalos Empire, the Nine Kingdoms Alliance might send out their elites to besiege our kingdom for acting out against the collective interests of the alliance. We all know the other kingdoms in the alliance want to swallow our kingdom to bolster their influence and might. However, none of them have done so because of our obedience. The moment we defy the alliance may very well be our kingdom's end. We need help, but no one can help us. We are completely isolated, Kingdom Herman sighed sadly. He felt like he had let down his ancestors for leading his kingdom to ruin. Perhaps he wasn't a qualified ruler. Nevertheless, no one knew that the Red Dragon clan's scouts had been eavesdropping on their morning meeting for the past 2 days. It was only a matter of time before the information reached Kvat's ears and beyond. Moon's core, new colony. There have been many changes since Vaan brought the witches and dragons to the new ancient colony to rebuild and cultivate. Although the ancient colony's life support system was far from completion, a small area suitable for crop cultivation and accommodating life was prepared. The dragons have been using it as an air resupply station while high witches studied and monitored the effects of their crop cultivations. On the 4th day of their arrival, Ophelia overcame her bottleneck and stepped into transcendence, becoming the 8th transcendent witch in Pangaea. However, Ophelia did not celebrate her breakthrough and simply requested to return to Pangaea. To her, reaching transcendent rank wasn't something worth celebrating. Vaan naturally agreed and sent her back with Aliana and Inauz after they stabilized their cultivations at the peak stage high witch and late stage high witch ranks, respectively. Afterward, Vaan took another batch of battle witches and students to the moon colony. Once the moon colony's life support system was fully functional, it would be time to take a batch of men to the otherworldly subterranean region for research. Meanwhile, shortly after Aliana returned to Sun Peak City, she discovered it had recently experienced a surge in visitors. Due to Sun Peak City's swift rising reputation, it usually attracted all kinds of people from the 7 witch kingdoms, be they travelers, merchants, or nobles. However, the surge of visitors in the past few days was not limited to the 7 witch kingdoms. They also came from the Holy Knight Empire and the Great Rathalos Empire. Among them were even many young masters and young misses from reputable noble families. So this is Sun Peak City, the current center of attention in the Black Rose Empire. It doesn't seem all that special. Ah, I miss the food from home already. In his honest opinion, Sun Peak City only looked nice. In terms of food quality, it was far too lacking compared to any coastal city in his home country. Well, at least the women here are all gorgeous and pleasing to the eye, the young master added, licking his lips. Young Master Punta, please show some restraint. We are in another country, the young master's guard politely reminded. However, young Master Punta ignored the friendly reminder. On the contrary, young Master Punta boldly inspected the witches on the busy street before his lewd gaze settled on one who appeared to stand out from the mass due to her extraordinary aura, which was absent in the other witches. Seeing the person looking around as she walked down the street by herself, young Master Punta immediately assumed it was her first time visiting Sun Peak City. Since no one is trying to befriend such an extraordinary lady, I will be the first to do so. Young Master Punta confidently strode forward and intercepted the person's path. At the same time, the person's pleasant herbal scent drifted past his nose and heightened his interest. Hello, beautiful. Are you by yourself? It's also my first time visiting this city. Do you mind if I join you? Young Master Punta asked as his subtle lewd gaze subconsciously roamed the lady's fair body. Aliana immediately frowned before barking coldly, scram. Before I decide to gorge out your eyes and feed them to the crows. Young Master Punta was immediately stunned. At the same time, an invisible strong force pushed him away, causing him to stumble to the ground and make a fool of himself. His guard also drew his sword defensively with alarm. Countless people glanced over and couldn't help but gloat. Young Master Punta quickly felt humiliated and enraged. You! How dare you push me? Do you know who my father is? Young Master Punta shouted resentfully. Aliana paused with narrowed eyes before coldly asking, why? Your mother never told you. Young Master Punta's mind quickly went blank, feeling speechless and dumbfounded by the unexpected reply. Meanwhile, the guard gripped his sword, breaking out in cold sweats as he overheard some of the bystanders' remarks. Someone is actually looking for trouble in front of Lady Aliana. I don't know if this person is bold or just courting death. You don't say. Young Master Punta's guard quickly felt like he was treading on thin ice. Before coming to Sun Peak City, everyone was told about the one person they should avoid offending. Unfortunately, young Master Punta just had to offend that very person, Lady Aliana, Lord of Sun Peak City. Shortly after Aliana shifted her cold gaze to the drawn sword, the guard's body shook with fright. He quickly withdrew his weapon and pulled his young master further away. Lady Aliana, please have mercy. My young master is still young and immature. He did not mean to offend you, the guard quickly said. He doesn't mean to offend me, but he can offend everyone else with his insolent gazes? Aliana coolly questioned before firmly stating, I don't know where you think you are, but this is my turf and my rules. Not some prostitute gallery. Take your young master and get out of my sight. Your presence spoils the mood of my city. Aliana barked. Right away, Lady Aliana, the guard nodded like an obedient chicken before lifting his young master over his shoulders and scurrying off with haste. At the same time, the crowd of witches quickly cheered at the departing eyesore. If not for the strict rules of Sun Peak City, they would have long taken matters into their own hands and taught the audacious brat a lesson. They just didn't want to risk getting punished for committing violence. After all, the city only had one person who could be the judge, jury, and executioner. Although Aliana's ruthlessness made everyone fear her, they also greatly respected her. Only when such brutal, cruel punishments existed would people properly behave and follow the law. Many people might not agree with her cruelty, but even they could not argue with the results. How could law and order be maintained if heavy consequences for breaking them weren't properly enforced? A transcendent rank red dragon and a group of battle witches shortly arrived at the scene after catching wind of a minor disturbance in the area. They were immediately pleasantly surprised upon discovering Aliana's return. Lady Aliana, is there a problem here? A transcendent rank red dragon inquired, sweeping the crowd with a stern glance. No, Aliana casually shook her head and explained, I've already taken care of it. I see. Meanwhile, many people lowered their heads in awe and reverence. On the other hand, the visitors from outside shivered under the dragon's intimidating pressure. But at the same time, they also couldn't help but feel excited about meeting one of the true dragons, especially those who traveled from the great Rathalos Empire. Dragons were the symbols of their worship since they represented strength and power. Nevertheless, the crowd eventually dispersed after Aliana departed the scene, returning to her residence. Welcome back, Lady Aliana, the servants and vassals quickly greeted. Aliana acknowledged them with a nod before summoning all her vassals for a quick meeting. What has happened in the past 4 days of my absence? Absence? I was only gone for a short while, but the stability and order of my city already dropped? Aliana coolly inquired after sitting on her seat with her legs crossed. The high-ranking battle witches under her command immediately lowered their heads in shame. Although they had a reason for that, it was undeniable that they disappointed their city lord. After a moment, a Darkan high witch stepped forward to speak. Shortly after you left, the city received a great increase in visitors from other countries, my lady, the commander of the city guards started explaining. Because they were mostly offspring of reputable and noble backgrounds, we dare not punish the troublemakers in case we created bigger problems for you, my lady. Aliana frowned with a dark look before saying, I don't care if they are princes or princesses of another country, Mildred. If they come to my city, they have to follow my city's rules. If they break the law, punish them accordingly. If the crime is severe enough to warrant death, then just kill them. Their statuses will not grant them any special privileges here in my city, Aliana coldly stated. Understood, my lady, the Darkan high witch bowed in understanding. So, who can tell me why the reputable and noble families in other countries are sending their dear offspring to our city? Aliana asked. Supposedly, words of our new Academy of Magic and Aura had spread to other countries, so they are sending their heirs over to learn, but more importantly, to build connections, my lady, a Lunaran high witch answered. Heirs, huh? Aliana uttered thoughtfully before acknowledging, that's pretty good. While they are learning and building connections in the Academy, they are also hostages. This form of arrangement should be their way of showing goodwill and loyalty to Lord Vaan. I guess I can't just sentence their heirs to death if they commit heavy crimes. But it should be easy to extort the families in return for keeping their lives. Aliana suddenly thought. Mildred and the other vassals gawked at their city lord dumbfoundedly. However, surprisingly, they couldn't find anything wrong with her words. My lady, there's another matter that requires your attention. None of us could decide what to do on this matter without you or Lord Vaan, another vassal suddenly mentioned. What matter? Aliana raised an eyebrow. There's a big group of warriors from the great Rathalos Empire claiming to be the devoted followers of Sir Pendragon, Lord Vaan, the vassal stated. Supposedly, they moved her after hearing news of Lord Vaan's main residence and have been demanding some land and resources to build a temple and statue in Lord Vaan's name to worship him. However, they don't seem very credible due to their beggar-like appearances. A temple and statue, huh? That's actually a good idea. Aliana thought with interest before sighing, to think that I have not thought of this before. Take me to see this group at once. I will determine whether they can be trusted or not. Although she couldn't confirm anything without seeing the group of warriors for herself, they had temporarily earned her goodwill. Back in the unknown subterranean region of chaos, Vaan had no idea that Aliana intended to build a big temple in his name in Sunpeak City, where he also planned to establish Hecate's first church. Undoubtedly, having two different symbols of worship in the same city would give rise to conflicts of interest. Hecate might also question his intention. Nevertheless, Vaan didn't care about faith energy, and it also no longer held the same value as it did before to Hecate. After all, faith energy was cultivated to change her fate and destiny. However, they had already been changed since she comprehended the nihility law with Vaan's help. Such a favor was greater than any other gift someone could have given her. As such, Hecate likely had no more interest in expanding her religion. At that moment, Vaan and Dahlia were snuggling together, enjoying each other's warmth in tranquil silence after a long session of dual practice. That was all Dahlia needed to feel content for a long while. Nevertheless, thanks to her individual efforts and the addition of their dual practice, she had safely joined the ranks of high witches, stopping at the peak of the early stage. Since each stage in the high witch rank required the formation of new mana rings, she was required to take a break and condition her body to its peak state before taking the next step forward. Meanwhile, Vaan's mana core was still stuck at peak stage senior warlock rank. However, it had already reached its absolute saturation limit. He estimated he would advance to the early stage high warlock rank once he dual practiced with Solana, who was at a higher cultivation rank than Dahlia. Solana had broken through 2 stages and reached the late stage high witch rank during the 5 days of individual cultivation. Once she dual practiced with him, she would most likely reach half-step transcendent witch rank. There was even a slight chance that she would achieve transcendence. Nevertheless, out of everyone brought to the otherworldly subterranean region to cultivate, Vaan had to admit the people who surprised him the most were undoubtedly the 3 Dreamcatchers. After 7th Dream learned about masturbation, she also corrupted 9th Dream with the knowledge. As a result, they both had secret masturbation sessions every time it was their turn to be on guard duty since they could not stop themselves from peeking into his private affairs. Curiosity truly killed the cats. Nevertheless, the surprising part in all of this was that the two had breakthroughs and stepped into the next stage of their cultivation. Evidently, they had been stuck at the 7th stage of the Divine Dream Realm for a long time and had a solid foundation. Otherwise, they would not have advanced to the 8th stage of the Divine Dream Realm so easily from touching themselves. When 4th Dream learned about their breakthroughs, she didn't know what to think. She was the eldest of the three, yet she had been left behind in cultivation. It would be a lie if she said she didn't envy their results. After Fourth Dream struggled with conflicting thoughts for some time, she eventually thickened her skin and went to find one of her sisters. Seventh sister, how did you and ninth sister advance to the 8th stage of the divine dream realm so suddenly? Did you figure out a trick or something? Fourth Dream asked. Seventh Dream glanced at her weirdly, with a shade of pink creeping onto her cheeks. After a moment, she asked, do you really want to know, fourth sister? So there was a trick to it? Fourth Dream uttered with surprise before speaking excitedly, I've been stuck at this level for 600 years. Quickly tell me the trick, my good sister. Good things have to be shared. Isn't it too selfish to keep such knowledge to yourself? Alright then, Seventh Dream shrugged her shoulders in agreement. Originally, she intended to warn her fourth sister about the forbidden knowledge out of consideration. However, she quickly changed her mind when the person slightly criticized her. Follow me, Seventh Dream instructed. Shortly after, she led Fourth Dream toward Vaan's lovemaking location. At the same time, Fourth Dream was quickly alarmed after noticing the direction. Isn't this the way to? Isn't this the way to Sir Vaan's love nest? Why are we heading this way, Seventh Sister? Didn't you want to learn the trick? Instead of telling you, it's better to show you, Fourth Sister. Along the way, Seventh Dream cast a veil of invisibility over them. A short while later, they arrived at their designated location. At the same time, Vaan and Dahlia coincidentally resumed their dual cultivation. When Fourth Dream peeked inside their love nest, she immediately blushed with vivid flashbacks of a similar scene. Within moments, her face was red-hot with embarrassment. The trick involves peeking into Sir Vaan's private affairs. Fourth Dream carefully asked while doing her best to maintain her composure. However, her deep blush betrayed her calmness, revealing the chaotic emotions boiling inside her. On the other hand, Seventh Dream's blush was much lighter, seemingly more used to the situation. No, but it's a great help as a stimulus, Seventh Dream replied with a deeper blush before mentioning, it looks like Ninth Dream is about to begin. Seventh Dream waved her hand, subtly sending her dream power into an inconspicuous corner to reveal Ninth Dream's hidden location. Ninth Dream's soft moan escaped as her delicate body shook with pleasure under the movements of her fingers. She was so immersed in her masturbation that she did not notice another party was watching her. In that instant, her innocent image in Fourth Dream's mind shattered. Fourth Dream instinctively covered her eyes with both hands to avoid looking at Ninth Dream's embarrassing act. What is Ninth Dream doing? Why is she indulging in such an embarrassing and depraved act? I can't look. How could you show such a thing to me, Seventh Sister? Fourth Dream exclaimed with a flushed face as she criticized Seventh Dream. Despite showing a strong aversion to the scene, Fourth Dream secretly peeked through the gaps between her fingers. She thought she was subtle about it, but Seventh Dream still noticed it. You can drop the act, Fourth Sister. I know you are looking, Seventh Dream called her out while feeling speechless. Previous chapter. After being called out by Seventh Dream, Fourth Dream coughed awkwardly and glanced at her grudgingly. Do you not have any tact, Seventh Sister? I'm still your elder sister. At least leave me some face, Fourth Dream implored before finding her gaze wandering back to Ninth Dream's shameful act. This is the trick that helped you and Ninth Sister advance to the 8th stage of the divine dream realm? Fourth Dream shortly asked with a flushed face, adding, what does pruning the flower have to do with our cultivation? Pruning the flower? Seventh Dream paused for a moment before laughing. True, we've never learned about this before, so I wouldn't have known what to call it but this either. The humans call it, fingering or masturbation, Seventh Dream stated with some embarrassment. So vulgar? Fourth Dream gasped. Well, it isn't exactly a graceful act, Fourth Sister, Seventh Dream commented before saying, however, the effects are undeniable. Just observe the changes for yourself, and you will understand. Observe the changes. Fourth Dream muttered, forcing herself to calm down. Unbelievable as it seemed, she had no choice but to trust Seventh Dream after noticing she wasn't joking about it. Sure enough, when Fourth Dream observed Ninth Dream's flower pruning act, she discovered her body absorbed the pure mana in her surroundings far faster than normal. At the same time, she realized the mana density in the area was much higher than in other places. Ninth Dream's cultivation benefited from the lewd act Sir Vaan performed with Lady Dahlia. When Fourth Dream realized that, several other details she hadn't really paid attention to suddenly came to mind. She was greatly astonished when she put the pieces together. Whether it was Lady Anaus, Lady Aliana, or Lady Dahlia, anyone who had spent some time performing lascivious acts with Sir Vaan had their cultivation upgraded very quickly. Even now, Fourth Dream could see that Sir Vaan and Lady Dahlia were attracting and absorbing pure mana at an incredible rate. She had seen Lady Dahlia before and noticed her mana talent and affinity weren't great. In fact, they could be considered quite ordinary or even poor. However, the mana talent and affinity she currently displayed as she performed shameful acts with Sir Vaan were clearly several levels higher than her original evaluation. Unexpectedly, the union of man and woman could produce such incredible results. I see, these sensual acts can stimulate the body and awaken its hidden potential, Fourth Dream noted. Ninth Dream is also stimulating her own body's hidden potential through her solo act. However, the result is also inferior to the duo act. Moreover, the biggest difference isn't the duo act itself but the skill involved. Doesn't that mean cultivation would be most effective if I could get Sir Vaan's help? Suddenly, Fourth Dream froze. Her face quickly flushed with a deeper crimson shade. She felt so ashamed and couldn't believe she could have such a thought. She was neither in an intimate relationship with Sir Vaan nor had romantic feelings for him. Thus, to surrender her body's innocence to him in the name of cultivation was rather demeaning. How could she have such little self-respect? Although Fourth Dream tried to fight off the foul thoughts with her reason and principles, her curiosity constantly grew. The more she suppressed it, the stronger it bounced back. No matter what she did, Fourth Dream couldn't stop herself from imagining the possible experience with Sir Vaan. Given how satisfied his women all seemed, Fourth Dream found it impossible to remove the seed of curiosity once it sprouted within her. I am a proud dreamcatcher of the dream dust territory. How can I be tempted by mortal desire? This is no way for a lady to conduct herself, of that, I know. So, why do lewd thoughts cloud my mind and urge my body? Why am I compelled to engage in such indecency? Is it for the cultivation benefits I seek or the possible pleasure derived from it? Either way, my sisters must find out if I were ever to do it. No. I should be resisting thoughts of such indecent acts, not figuring out how to do them in secret from my sisters. Fourth Dream constantly shifted her gaze between Ninth Dream and Vaan's locations as she waged an intense battle between reason and desire in her heart and mind. It was uncertain which side was winning, but her blood pressure constantly rose. She didn't want to be left behind in cultivation, but at the same time, she also didn't want to be caught indulging in such indecent acts in front of her juniors. Alas, the choice proved too difficult for her to make. Fourth Dream eventually collapsed in dizziness from all the stress and heat built up in her seemingly delicate body. Ah, fourth sister. Not again. Seventh Dream cried. Meanwhile, inside the nearby rock chamber of lust, Dahlia earnestly shook her hips on top of Vaan's lap to calm his raging dragon, completely unaware of third-party observation. Sometime after Vaan placated Dahlia and extinguished her worries, he shifted his attention to Ninth Dream. He had already stopped his dual cultivation with Dahlia, but Ninth Dream was still immersed in touching herself. The erotic movements and sounds she made were certainly a treat for sore eyes. Vaan suddenly noticed Ninth Dream abruptly stopping her masturbation and started fixing her clothes hastily as if someone had just caught her in the act. She looked extremely distressed, awkward, and ashamed. However, Vaan was certain she didn't notice his spying. Furthermore, she didn't seem to discover Fourth Dream and Seventh Dream peeking at her in the distance either. After noticing Fourth Dream and Seventh Dream's expressions, Vaan immediately realized Hecate must have contacted them. That also implied her meeting with the Great Devils must have concluded. That finished earlier than I expected, Vaan mused. Sometime later, Ninth Dream approached the rock chamber, neatly dressed without any traces of the mess she made when she touched herself. Sir Vaan, are you free? Lady Hecate would like to have a word with you, Ninth Dream asked. All right, Vaan acknowledged. Shortly after separating from Dahlia, he cleaned up and dressed before heading outside to meet Ninth Dream, where she offered her hand to link him to her spiritual connection with Hecate. Without Ophelia around, the Dreamcatchers had become his new channels of communication with Hecate. Just as Vaan exited his rock chamber, his nose twitched a few times before casually commenting, "Doesn't it smell like freshly squeezed flower essence around here?" Although the words were softly spoken, they rang like thunder in Ninth Dream's ears. She was immediately petrified on the spot. No. I can't be. Ninth Dream screamed in her mind. She was certain she had already erased the funny smell on her body with magic. As such, there shouldn't be any traces of it left. But if that was true, how could Sir Vaan smell it? Ninth Dream started to doubt whether her flower cave still leaked new fluids due to the abrupt end of her private session. However, she didn't have the opportunity to check while standing in Vaan's presence with her hand extended. Looking into Vaan's seemingly innocent yet curious eyes, Ninth Dream felt very distressed, as if she were on the verge of a mental breakdown. You don't smell it, Lady Ninth Dream? Vaan asked, feigning ignorance. And no. Yes. I was concocting a medicinal drink earlier. That must be the smell you are picking up, Sir Vaan. Oh. Medicinal drink? Vaan uttered with surprise before asking with concern, do you have some chronic illness, Lady Ninth Dream? Have you drank your medicine? Have I, what? Ninth Dream almost wanted to faint on the spot when Vaan's seemingly innocent question forced the image into her head. Of course, the medicinal drink was just an excuse, as she knew what she actually meant. How could she drink her secreted fluids? Ugh. I'm flattered by your concern, Sir Vaan, but please don't worry about me. Ninth Dream forced a smile before urging him, please grab my hand to connect to the spiritual link. Lady Hecate is waiting. Alright, Vaan calmly nodded. He figured he had teased her enough. Shortly after Vaan held Ninth Dream's soft hand, he immediately felt a strong spiritual connection established between them. In fact, the spiritual connection was much stronger than the one with Ophelia, considering a wisp of his consciousness had been pulled into Ninth Dream's spiritual world. Vaan found his spiritual avatar standing in a world of pure white snow. The heavy blizzard had obscured everything around him, and only a single path leading up a small snowy hill was seen. Interesting, Vaan thought as he observed the snowy spiritual world. He could feel the softness of the snow underneath his feet and the piercing coldness of the air entering his body. Although the spiritual world wasn't real, it didn't miss any detail, making it difficult to distinguish from reality. It was a truly well-constructed spiritual world. I trust you have been well since our last meeting, Sir Vaan. Hecate calmly greeted with an amicable smile as she gestured for Vaan to take the empty seat across the stone table. Vaan nodded before jumping straight to the main topic. How did the meeting with the other great devils go, Lady Hecate? Well, for the most part, I would say. At the very least, I have succeeded in convincing the other great devils to spare you. So you don't have to worry about the great devils joining forces to hunt you down for the time being, Hecate stated. However, that doesn't mean you are off the hook just yet. The great devils have laid down several conditions you must meet within certain periods. During this period, the great devils have agreed to a truce and won't act against you. But if you fail to meet their conditions within the stipulated time, it'll become unclear what they will do to you, Sir Vaan, Hecate calmly stated. Judging by her tone alone, Vaan figured the conditions weren't too difficult for him to accomplish, or at least, Hecate believed so. What conditions have they laid down for me, Lady Hecate? Vaan inquired. First and foremost, you have 7 days to swear under contract magic in the presence of one or more great devils that you are willing to become one of the great devils and act in Gehenna's interests, which includes peacefully resolving any grudges between you and the great devils. Compensation can be negotiated, and other great devils can help mediate if required, Hecate stated. However, should you agree to become a great devil of Gehenna, you must also meet all the underlying qualifications to becoming one within the stipulated time. Since you are believed to be a soul master, the other great devils have given you 2 years to become a rank 6 divine being and 10 years to be a peak rank 6 divine being. Also, depending on which territory you choose to rule as the great devil of, there are further conditions you must meet within the given 10 years. For example, if you choose to be the great devil of Pangaea territory, you must acquire the allegiance and acknowledgement of every Pangaean country. Unfortunately, this option is impossible to achieve, Hecate sighed softly. Vaan almost wanted to laugh when he heard how much time he was given. While it might seem like the great devils had given him very little time to achieve something that took them hundreds to thousands of years, it was actually a lot of time for him. He was confident that achieving the divine rank in at least one aspect would not even take him a year. Why is it impossible, Lady Hecate? Vaan asked curiously. He wouldn't have thought it impossible if Hecate had not said it. However, since she said so, they immediately suspected the reason. Some Pangaean countries are already firmly under the control of the great devils. As such, you won't be able to acquire their allegiance and acknowledgement without offending the great devil in control of them, Hecate stated. Sure enough, the reason was as Vaan suspected. Furthermore, if you were to force the issue and butt heads with them, you'll be forming new grudges with the great devils, which goes against the oath to resolve all grudges with them, Hecate continued. No magic can really bind you since you have the nihility law. However, the oath you take under contract magic will be the only thing the great devils trust to feel safe and not want to kill you. So, it is unwise to make them think otherwise, let alone expose the nihility law, Hecate stressed. Which countries are under the control of the great devils? Vaan calmly inquired. As far as I know, all 12 city-states of the Divine League are under Astarte's control. As for Mephistopheles, I only know he has multiple countries under his control. As to which ones they are, I have no idea, unfortunately, Hecate said regrettably. I see, Vaan calmly uttered before asking, so I can only choose to be the great devil of the Evernight territory? Technically, yes, Hecate answered before adding, however, that won't be easy either. The Evernight territory has already been stripped from my sole control and divided between the great devils. It's hard to say what will remain of it by the time you acquire the qualifications to rule it. Furthermore, the additional condition for the Evernight territory is that you possess a vampire lord rank bloodline and acquire the allegiance and acknowledgement of every vampire lord. Also, among the great devils, Helcan and Mephistopheles will most likely try to make things difficult for you secretly, Hecate speculated. Vaan couldn't help but shook his head. Although he knew the denizens of chaos lived with different values and mindsets, he still found the great devils' choices rather disappointing. Clearly, the great devils were quite positive and fearful of his future, yet they still wanted to control and suppress him. That was no way to earn his goodwill and favor. Were they even trying? Or did being in positions of power for so long make them too proud and arrogant to suck up to someone weaker than them? Nevertheless, Vaan noticed the nuance in Hecate's word. Basically, the lands of Pangaea and the Evernight territory are free for all because they are currently without a ruling great devil. They aren't the only territories without a ruling great devil, though. Vaan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Lady Hecate, will you tell me more about the 2 uninhabitable territories of Gehenna? Vaan requested. Hecate glanced at him with astonishment and surprise. After recovering her wits, she quickly asked, don't tell me you wish to make one of the 2 uninhabitable territories your great devil domain, Sir Vaan. I do have that idea in mind, but I will have to hear more about the 2 uninhabitable territories first, Lady Hecate, Vaan replied with a thoughtful look. Considering Hecate's reaction, he was willing to bet that even the other great devils wouldn't expect him to set his eyes on the uninhabitable territories. And since the great devils wouldn't have expected it, they wouldn't have set any conditions for them either. Although those uninhabitable territories are indeed ownerless, that's because those places are not suitable for living due to the extreme environment and dangers. The difficulty in turning them into habitable territories isn't worth the effort. I wouldn't recommend it, Sir Vaan, Lady Hecate advised. However, since you already asked about them, I am inclined to at least explain their situations to you. I trust you will be able to make the right choice. Of the 2 uninhabitable territories of Gehenna, the Purple Flame territory is undoubtedly more famous. It used to be the most valuable territory in Gehenna due to its high quality and quantity of magical plants. But now, it has been reduced to a land of fire and death. Everything that was once there had been burned to cinders by the eternal purple flame. Only vengeful spirits born from the eternal fire plague that land now. As such, I wouldn't put any hope on finding anything of value there. However, it does make an excellent battleground for tempering oneself in the art of combat. The great devils generally send their transcendents and half-step divine beings there to train, albeit on small scales. After all, the Purple Flame territory is an uninhabitable land with unpredictable changes and dangers. Even divine beings could lose their lives if they underestimate its dangers, Hecate stated. Vaan calmly nodded with understanding. If the purple flame territory's danger level hadn't at least reached the divine rank, it wouldn't have been labeled as an uninhabitable territory. The eternal purple flame ravaging the land was a higher divine power that even the great devils dreaded. Although Vaan failed to see the value in choosing the purple flame territory as his great devil domain, he figured it was at least an excellent cultivation land that he had to visit at least once. After all, his comprehension of the fire law would most likely advance by leaps and bounds in such a place. Beside the purple flame territory is the dark sea abyss territory. Although not as renowned as the purple flame territory, its dangers far exceed it. It is also known as the unconquerable ocean, Hecate continued. Unfortunately, there isn't much I can tell you about the dark sea abyss territory. It has always been the most mysterious and dangerous place in all of Gehenna. Even great devils have failed to explore it safely. Its black seawater possesses dreadful toxicity, and the sea life is even more fearsome. Not only are the sea creatures numerous, but they are also powerful. I don't have an exact count, but I can confidently say this ocean body is home to countless divine rank sea creatures. If the reincarnation of you-know-who was born and killed in Gehenna, the end of sentient civilizations in Gehenna will most likely be brought by the very sea creatures in this dark sea abyss territory, Hecate speculated. Now you understand why I don't recommend any of these two uninhabitable territories, Sir Vaan. You'll gain nothing from making any of them your great devil domain. I beg to differ, Lady Hecate. This dark sea abyss territory has captured my attention and interest. I believe it is very suitable to become my domain, Vaan smiled. Hecate's expression stiffened for a moment before turning solemn. Are you serious, Sir Vaan? Hecate asked. Definitely, Vaan calmly nodded before saying, of course, I still have a lot of time to change my mind. After all, I've been given 10 years to decide on my territory. There's a slight chance I will change my mind later. However, my mind is quite set on this dark sea abyss territory at this very moment, Lady Hecate. I feel a strong affinity with it, Vaan stated. Honestly, I cannot understand what you are thinking, Sir Vaan, Hecate softly sighed before asking, are you planning to give up on Pangaea? Do you think that's possible, Lady Hecate? Vaan lightly smiled. Hecate shook her head, replying, I don't believe so. Suddenly, she realized Vaan's plan. Considering his unparalleled control of the spatial law, bringing his Pangaean land to the dark sea abyss territory wouldn't be impossible, especially if his cultivation reached the same heights as the great devils. Even she could not imagine how much he would improve within these 10 years. Nevertheless, the biggest problem was taming the unconquerable ocean. If it couldn't be done, Vaan would just be sending his people to their deaths. Although Hecate was optimistic about his future, she still couldn't figure out how he intended to conquer the dark sea abyss territory when all of the great devils had failed at their level of power. Of course, only Vaan knew exactly why he was confident in the dark sea abyss territory. However, even he did not know the extent of his boundless sea and sky aura's power. Fortunately, he had a lot of time to explore it. The Eastern Sea was a good place to study it in preparation for the dark sea abyss territory. There's something I don't understand, Sir Vaan. Why are you fixated on the dark sea abyss territory? Although I don't know how you intend to conquer it, I know it won't be easy if you plan to move parts of Pangaea to it. You must have a very good reason if you plan to go through all that trouble, right? Hecate asked. Lady Hecate, you yourself have personally seen the state of the asteroid field, Vaan mentioned. Not only has it been destroyed by some outer beings, but the space is so unstable and fragile that it is quite easy to tear a rift into the endless sea of nothingness. The longer I remain in that world, the greater the uncertainty. I don't know if the outer beings will ever return to finish its job, but I do know that my people and I will be in a better position if we move to the dark sea abyss territory, Vaan stated. Hecate couldn't help but agree with Vaan after learning about his reason. Indeed, if the outer beings that reduced the asteroid field to its current state return to destroy Pangaea, the wolf god domain and Evernight territory would be affected first. Everyone else not in those places would be given time to react to the impending disaster. Nevertheless, that was only speaking hypothetically. What were the chances of the outer beings actually returning one day? Wasn't Sir Vaan being too cautious? That said, Hecate would also prefer to err on the side of caution. It was better to be safe than sorry. Previous chapter. Next chapter.